Probably the hardest morning for me during the week is Monday morning. It's the day that my wife drives carpool and I am responsible to get our little one out the door. As you can imagine, it's not always so simple. He's got his own agenda, isn't the quickest to get up in the morning, certainly doesn't love to get dressed. Giving him breakfast is a challenge. Helping him decide on what he wants for lunch is a challenge. In general, it's a challenge. This week, I actually had a double dose of this incredible opportunity because today as well, we had, again, reason for me to be the one to get him up and going. My wife had to take one of our children to the dentist, and so it was my responsibility again. So what do you do when you have a child that is challenging and difficult and doesn't want to do what you want? The answer, of course, is you try to negotiate. And negotiation with a child can be very interesting, but actually, a lot of the key things that we do when we want to negotiate with our kids, we also need to be thinking about when we want to negotiate with others, whether it's in the workplace, in our community, whatever. But adult negotiation and kid negotiation is actually not as different as it may seem. Yes, the other party is hopefully more rational. Yes, they're able to articulate their thinking a little bit more clearly, but fundamentally, it's really the same issue. So I'd like to walk you through some of the things that I use when faced with this situation that frankly I think could have positive impact in negotiating with anyone that you encounter. The first tip is avoid emotional struggle. Try to stay emotionally neutral. Children will typically get emotional and it's easy for adults to follow suit. We're in a rush. There's a lot going on, the carpool's about to leave, whatever the issue is, and we just need to get this thing going. And so it can be really, really difficult to keep our emotions in check. And frankly, the same is true when we talk to adults. We think we're right, we have a great idea, we want to advance our agenda, whatever it is, and we are emotionally invested in what we're trying to pitch. But frankly, so is the other person. And so the more that we can keep emotion out of it, and just look at the issues and try to be thoughtful and considerate. Some points we'll come to in just a moment. But again, keeping the emotions to the side, that alone is going to make the negotiation smoother, simpler, and more pleasant. Another strategy is to start with an agreement. Get your child, if that's who you're negotiating with, to agree to something. Get them to do something that they're willing to do, a small something in the right general direction. If you get them moving in that way, then you could add to it, you could layer it, you could be strategic about how you're going to move from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, which is ultimately your goal of having them fully dressed, out the door, fully fed, all that stuff in a timely fashion. And when you're negotiating with adults as well, you want to often think about how can you begin to get them on board with you? How can you begin to get them to think like you and to, if ultimately that's what it is, or at least to be willing to have conversation with you that's going to produce a positive result. So getting them to agree to something, getting them to do something small as a step towards working towards the bigger goal could often be very helpful. The last one, and this is really important with kids, but frankly, again, with adults as well, let them win. It doesn't mean you have to let them win fully, but let them feel from time to time that you are willing to give in. Negotiate to give them a few more minutes on the device that they're watching or the thing that they're doing before sort of tidying up and saying, okay, I've given you a few minutes. Now it's time to move on to what we really need to accomplish here. And I think when you're dealing with adults as well, so they want to feel like they have power. They want to feel like they've had success. They want to feel like they've won. And so if you can be strategic, which are the fights you're going to engage in? Which are the ones you could leave alone? What's really important here and what doesn't matter as much? And if they can feel that they have won, if they can feel that they've accomplished something with this negotiation, even if ultimately they need to acquiesce and quote unquote give in some other place, you're going to get a much more compliant and agreeable individual in that conversation or negotiation. So to recap, here are the 3 points to think about whenever you're in a negotiation. Number 1, you want to avoid emotional struggle. Keep the emotions out of it. Try to be as neutral as you possibly can, just focusing on the issues. Number 2, avoid struggle. See if you can get some early wins and build some momentum. And from step A to step B to step C, realize that this is a journey with a number of strategic components that are going to allow you to get you to your goal. And finally, try to help everybody feel that they've won. Because the more that you have created a sense of winning across the board, the more success you will enjoy. Thanks for listening and happy negotiating.